Ben Moore is an apiarist. Now, for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a fancy name for a beekeeper. But he's also an environmentalist, father, food lover and owner of Ben's Bees. Being exposed to nature and farming from an early age, and with 3 decades of experience behind him, Ben started Ben's Bees in 2008. And since then, Ben has been very buzzy, expanding his hive of industry and cross-pollinating beekeeping, honey production, safe rehoming of bee colonies, not to mention swarming the world with his dedication to advocacy, education and mentoring. With a focus on ethical and natural beekeeping practices, Ben is committed to educating the community about bees and their vital connection to the environment and our everyday lives. So today will be a stinger of a show with Ben Moore covering all the many things about his bee-liefs, well-being and many other bee-hiviours. I'll not be keeping him from you any longer. Here he is, everyone. It is Ben Moore, and Ben is having a technical issue with his headphones as well. So, Ben, I might just get you to pop your headphones off and then just speak directly into the microphone just until we sort that one out. Good
awesome. Thank you, Rae. What an absolutely fantastic introduction. And I've got to say, no bee puns, please, because it bugs me.
I love it. Now, I managed a total of 9 bee references and you've just topped it with another 2, so we're at 11. How many more could we possibly do?
That's funny.
Now, I like to start every show, Ben, with talking about how we know each other, and in fact, we don't know each other at all.
First time we've ever met.
It is the first time we ever met, but we are actually neighbours.
Oh, are we?
Yes, I live down the road from you.
No, just around the corner.
I do, on the same street. So,
there we go.
Yes.
So my bees would be, well, some of my bees will be visiting your garden.
So here we go. Here's an intro, everyone. Somebody, and I'm not going to name them, said to me, "Oh, you're talking about bees on your show today? That's a bit vanilla, isn't it?" And I went, F off. Like, no way. Anyway, Ben's Bees, right, has been a life-changing experience for me. For those that don't know me well, I gave up drinking alcohol just on 12 months ago. So that was my medicine for many reasons. And very early on into that experience, I was walking down my street with my dog Vincent, as I do at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we'd seen Ben's Bees move into the neighbourhood a couple of years ago and set up this little hive in his front yard. And I thought, what's in this hive? And I walked in and there's all this honey. And we're going to talk about this honesty box later in the show, but there's all this honey for sale. I thought, I'm going to give that a go. So I bought a jar of Ben's Bees honey and I brought it home, and every day since then I put that in my coffee. It's the first thing I have every day, and I swear it's been life-changing. And I was visiting a health food shop, and I'm going to cut to Ben now, but she told me the reason I'm probably feeling better is because those bees probably live in my neighbourhood, and therefore that's why my allergies are better. Over to you, Ben Moore.
That is absolutely spot on, Rae. So when we look at the honey's been around for a very, very long time. Now, honey, obviously a lot of people think of it as like a food, like we had Tony on before, and the classic panettone has got honey in it. So it's been used around for a long time. But honey's actually also a medicine. So when we look at, say, honey from your local area, having that honey's got little bits of pollen in it. Now, if you
Did you say pollen or porn?
No, pollen.
Oh, that's
pollen.
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 A bit early in the show.
It's little bits of pollen. And what happens is, if you ingest that local honey and you've got these little bits of pollen, and if you're a hay fever sufferer, what it can actually do is help those symptoms. And it's actually called immunotherapy. So it now works for most people, but not every single one, but it's a really natural way of with hay fever. Now, once again, with honey, we've all heard of Manuka honey. Now, when it comes to Manuka honey, there's this little special magical ingredient called MgO, which stands for methyl glyoxal. And what that is absolutely fantastic because it's antibacterial, it's antifungal, and it helps. Now, they're actually starting to use it in the last couple of years in hospitals with people who suffer, say, those diabetic ulcers and those topical type wounds. So it's an absolute miracle cure. Now, COVID, we're probably all sick about talking about it now, but in regards to COVID, there's another ingredient that bees collect and store, which a lot of people aren't familiar with, and it starts with P, and it's called propolis. Now, propolis, think of it like a resin, a glue, and the bees use that within their hive as far as once again, an anti-fungal, sort of bacterial ingredient. Little holes they'll actually glue up and use this propolis. Now, as a beekeeper, we can use that. And you can actually make what's called a tincture. So you steep that in alcohol, where the Eastern Europeans do that, or a lot in Asia, they'll actually make a medicine from that. And there's actually science there too, where it clinically help the symptoms of sore throats with common colds and COVID. So bees are truly the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, there's your little science lesson, everyone who's listening in. Look, I swear what you've just said, I'm just going tick, 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 tick for everything, and I would not have believed it unless I'd experienced it for myself. And then that lady brought light to it in the health food shop, who also stocks Ben's Bees products, by the way, and nowhere near your house either. So it's got a very wide reach. But there you go, people. And it's not. Can you also just give me a bit of an insight into store-bought honey, because I will never buy store-bought honey again. And no offence to Manuka or any of those other Capilano. However, it's just not the same thing.
Now, the biggest issue with that, and there's a pretty sort of easy explanation. Now, the problem is with a lot of honey that's bought from the shops, big chain supermarkets, we have this issue, and that's just because we're all so used to this, and that's honey that's runny, so that clear honey. Now, what they do in the shops, unfortunately, is they heat treat it. So they usually heat it anywhere from sort of 60 to 65 degrees Celsius. Now, what it kind of does is pasteurization. Now, when I say pasteurization, it's not like, say, raw milk where we're killing the bad stuff out of the honey. So it's completely different. So, and the reason is they heat treat it because it breaks down those fine various sugar molecules. There's fructose and glucose, which are the predominant sugars. And what it does, it stays runny. Now, if you buy honey from a local beekeeper, and I really encourage that, because it's a very awesome thing to do for the community, your honey will often go crystallize. Now, every now and then I get someone who will throw it out.
I didn't throw mine out.
Oh, that's good. Yep. That's good. Don't throw it out. But that's a natural, and actually happens within the hive. Now, why does it do it? The reason why it does it is got to do with the different types of nectars. So if a bee forages on something, say, like some of these herbaceous plants, it's more likely to do it than as opposed to some eucalyptus. Say, first one that comes to mind is yellow box eucalyptus. It is more likely to stay runny for a length of time. But, super important, honey is the only natural food to humans that does not have a shelf life. Found it in the Pharaoh's tombs dating back 3000 BC, so it's over 5,000 years old, still edible. So now if your honey does crystallize, put in some warm water. Make sure you don't heat it, anything above 38, 40 degrees.
Don't put it in your microwave.
No, don't put it in the microwave.
Do not do that.
You get smacks if you do that. Smack in the bum. Because the reason is it'll denature all those good things that's within the honey. So,
yeah.
and crystallized honey, butter.
Or just get over the aesthetics and just keep using it.
Exactly.
With crystals in it.
Exactly. And put on crumpets with butter. I'm dribbling thinking about it.
Yeah, I know. Now, we've started talking about honey, but also how you serve the community and how the bees have their own colony or community. But I was, I love social media. And I read your page, and it was back in August, and I was really, really shocked in a good way. But there was a post there from a woman who had visited the beehive on Perth Street in Blackburn South. Yep. We can say that because you advertise it everywhere.
Yeah, 20 Perth Street.
Yeah, and people always come to my house as well. So for a different kind of service.
Exactly.
Anyway, she visited the hive, and it had 1.1 thousand likes on this post. And I thought to myself, this is our local community in Blackburn South that had evoked 1.1 thousand likes on this post of a woman visiting an honesty box, buying some honey from you, and then there's something like 100 comments as well. What does that say about our community? Not only their knowledge of you, but their commitment to the community and their participation in the community and speaking out about something that really means something to them.
I think that's very interesting.
Do you remember that post?
Yes, I'm trying to remember it. But I think the biggest thing is with the community, it's the fact is, so I've got this little sort of paint a bit of a visual picture for people who haven't seen it. It's like, remember the old school, back in the early 1900s, the outside toilets? So it's like a little honey hut.
Yeah,
so it just kind of looks like that, and it's painted yellow.
Dunny. It's a honey
dunny.
dunny.
It's the outside dunny. That's right. And so you sort of visualise that, and you go in, there's a little money tin. I don't even lock the money tin. How many times I would be once a week where someone would message me, oh, your money tin's not locked. Now, the reason is...
Has anyone ever taken from
Oh, you get the odd person.
They probably need it.
Yeah, that's correct. And as long as they need it and didn't own 5 houses in Toorak, that'd sort of annoy me a little bit. Yeah. But it's... so, you know what? If someone's listening and you know someone that's down and out, please, Christmas time, I want you to grab a jar of honey, leave a little note, just so I know, and say this is for someone that needs it. So, as I said, it's 20 Perth Street, Blackburn South, because it's very important that people know that I trust a community. And because when you trust someone, the trust gets reversed. They trust me. Now... That
has a well-being effect to be trusted. Absolutely.
100%. And the other thing is too, with honey, it's not my main source of income. People naturally think you're a beekeeper, you're an apiarist. That's how you make your money, but it's actually not. I don't like this word because it's sort of got a bit of a negative sort of, but it's a byproduct for me. So it's a byproduct. Now, when I say that, it's things like it's, all ethically produced. I don't keep bees for honey. So my bees are super healthy. I don't, I get vegans sometimes buy honey off me. Yeah. Some vegans will, which is another story. Now, regards to that, there's certain things, there's what's called a queen excluder. So it prevents the queen from laying eggs in with the honey. I don't use them. So it's a very ethical. I look after my bees, probably, absolutely incredible because I work 7 days a week and I'm always looking after them. And my bees probably, I don't know, this is going to sound bad, but sometimes I think they come first.
Yes.
I love the bees. And I can tell you now.
I do have some questions about that coming up. So I'm going to rein you in a little bit.
Yes.
Because that's my job here.
Yes, rein me on.
It's to hold space for you, but certainly to draw a boundary when you're going, oh no, they're my questions for later. We have to save that up. But, again, your address to things. And for people that do want to visit that honesty box in Perth Street in Blackburn South, you can't miss it because there is the honey dunny out the front.
The honey dunny.
This was now, but also I pay with PayPal.
Yes.
So, if you don't have cash on you, I do that generally either in my car or as soon as I get home, which is just a roll down the road.
Yes.
Which is really efficient. So there you go. Now, I returned from Borneo last week, and we were, and I'm going to talk about that a little more during the show. But on my way home, I watched one of my all-time favourites on the plane, Jerry Maguire. And it's got a legendary line from Ray, he's the son of Dorothy, where he states to Jerry, do you know that bees and dogs can smell fear? Can bees actually smell fear?
I believe they can. And in regards to that fear, I think is it something that we're producing a certain frequency? Now, when I say frequency, it's sort of, I'm not sort of saying that necessarily in a sort of hippie sort of frequency, but we're producing something that they can detect it. And I see this time and time again. Now, it could be vibrations. If you're scared, you sort of stutter, judder, that type of thing. And the bees will pick up on that. Now, there is scientific evidence that bees have facial recognition. So I've seen this not just with my bees, but with other beekeepers' bees. They will see the beekeeper and they'll actually know who the beekeeper is. So now, when we say that, that's around their hive. So if you're scared of bees, and which I totally understand fears, I'm scared of heights, hate heights. So we all have our fears. But it's if you're in the park and you see a bee buzzing around your food because you made something sweet, or you're going for a run and you see a single bee, remember she. And I say she because she's a girl, because they work the hardest. And she will not want to sting you. It's only when they're protective around their hive, around their queen and their honey stores.
Or you stand on them.
And then it's that last year.
And I am skipping a little forward, but it's relevant because bees can live between 2 and 5 years.
Well, that's the queen bee. So
the queen bee.
Yeah,
okay.
So 2 to 7 years. But the worker bee, she will only live this time of year. So sort of around that Christmas time, she'll only live for about 40 days.
Oh, okay. So in the situation of the the queen bee who can live for, up to 7 years. Do your queens recognise you personally?
Oh, no. See, this is very interesting because remember now the queen is not the boss. The queen is not the boss. So her brain is actually a little bit smaller than a worker bee. So all she is, and we naturally think, the queen's the boss. She's the most important bee because she lays the eggs. But she is just an egg-laying machine.
Ooh, don't say that to the feminists. They'll be on the blower any minute now.
Well, it's true. That's all she is. She's the colony now. They're all the girls, and it's actually interesting.
They're boy bees, though, yeah.
They're called drones, but the boy bees are good for nothing. So the feminists will love this because the boy bees, they're so hopeless they can't even feed themselves.
Right. Okay.
And they're only designed for one thing. They can't even sting. A drone or a boy bee doesn't even have a stinger, and they're only designed for one thing, and that's reproduction.
Oh, so what? So the worker bees are the most.
So the worker bees that we see in the gardens and doing the foraging, collecting, pollen, nectar, and so forth, they're sterile females.
Right. What makes them sterile? This is the way.
So they can't. So when it's very fascinating is when we look at the genetics of a bee. So a queen. So when she goes on her maiden voyage and mates with drones, she's a little bit of a hussy and she'll try and mate with as many drones as possible, and she'll retain the sperm from all those drones. She'll then go back into the hive and she'll lay eggs. Now a fertile egg will get turned into a worker bee. An infertile egg will get turned into a drone. So she can dictate that. Now, with the worker bees, because they're ovipositor, so that's their egg-laying tool, is being converted into a stinger. So over time, and so it's fascinating. So that's why the bees sting.
It is. I love this. I mean, I'm curious about just about everything in the world. So, but speaking of the fear thing that we were talking about, clearly you don't fear bees. I've seen, again, a few photos of you covered in bees. There was one in particular where you'd been stung in the face so much that you were unrecognisable. That wasn't me. No, that wasn't me. Oh, Jesus. That was not me. No, I actually don't get any reactions at all from bee stings unless it's on my eyelid or just on the inside of my nose. No, that was someone. That was another beekeeper. That was a chap over in Baldwin, and. That was hilarious. I asked him. I don't think it was hilarious for him.
It was. He let me share it on social media, so it was hilarious. He thought it was funny. His eyes swelled up, and he was completely.
Well, it could have been you. It could have been anyone.
It could have been anyone. I know, it could have been anyone. So, and I got to admit, it's probably a little bit cheeky of me, but when someone gets stung by a bee, I think it's hilarious because often you see these big macho blokes, got the whole neck tattoos and everything, and go, I'm not scared of bees, I'm a big boy. And as soon as they get stung by a bee, they go, that really, really hurts.
Yeah. Although there's worse things on, having children, childbearing, that really hurts. But going back to the evolution of bees, I didn't know this, but they evolved from hunting wasps about 146 million years ago.
It's fascinating. Exactly.
Again, to that person who told me that this was going to be quite a vanilla show, shut up, because this is, there must be fossils.
The fossils, yeah. And when we look at, I think there's over 25,000 species of bees. There's a bee, I believe it's in South America, it's called the vulture bee. So it's actually a bee, but it forages and eats meat. Ooh. So meat, so you naturally think that's been a wasp. In Australia, we've got just shy of 2,000 different species of native bees. Now, most of them are solitary.
Yes.
So when we look at bees, so the European honeybee, which is what we're predominantly talking about, that was introduced into Australia 201 years ago.
Wow.
On a ship called the Isabella. Now, this is actually interesting. Here's another fact for Mr. Vanilla, because I thought this is absolutely interesting. And have a think about this one. So back in 201 years ago, it was a convict ship coming from Cork in Ireland, and there was 164 convicts on this ship. Obviously, big voyage, coming from Ireland to Sydney, that takes months. During that trip, not one single, it's all documented, not one single convict died, where it was common that during that time, convicts would actually would die and they'd throw them overboard or whatever they did sort of with their bodies. So I think that's when we look at bees. They really are a mysterious, interesting creature.
And so beneficial for the world. So, Ben.
Yeah, now when we say beneficial, I've got to jump in there.
Beneficial.
Beneficial. I like that. That's funny.
I was actually going to ask you a really important question, but
Yeah, I'll quickly jump in because
Yes.
when we say, obviously mentioned Ray about the importance of bees.
Yes.
Now, honey's beautiful, love it. And I think my body is mostly honey, the amount that I consume. I even buy honey from other beekeepers.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Do you actually like honey?
I will buy honey from other beekeepers. I will, because I love the complexities. There's now, it's becoming recognised. And actually one of the classes, there's one in New York and there's one in Italy to be a honey sommelier.
Wow. It's interesting you say that. My son is a chef, George, who's just moved to London. But George ended up here at Attica. And, Ben Sherry himself, is very, very wedded to these kinds of practices, ethical practices around how we harvest and farm certain species that he derives his amazing recipes from, one of them being honey and one of them being a honey ant.
Yes, right.
The ant that he uses in a particular dish, which I don't think is on the menu at the moment because of the shortage of these ants and how they actually have to ethically transport them from the desert to here is a whole issue. Anyway, that's a whole other show. In fact, you can refer to my show that I did with Ben Sherry earlier in the year.
He's a fantastic chef. That's the best restaurant. I think
it's one of the best restaurants in the world. Yes.
In the world. I know. It's amazing. Yes, yeah. And he's such a, that chef, he's Ben as well. Is
another Ben. Yeah.
Another Ben, yes, yeah. He's such a gentle, really nice man.
Well, he originated in New Zealand. So he's got great stories to tell about, his time in New Zealand as a child, but coming here and then, my son George also spending a few years with Ben, and learning all about his practices. Now he's taking that over to the UK.
That's awesome.
So it's really exciting.
That's fantastic.
Very exciting.
Awesome.
But enough. I mean, I love talking about my kids more than anything in the world. So I'll desist from that because this is about you. But we are coming up for the first song break, Ben. And this is where I prepare to play our very special guest song requests. So you've sent me a list.
Yes.
Which is personally selected by you prior to the show, although there is a surprise one from me because you were one short. You couldn't think of the fourth one. So, so it's 3 of the 4. So it's a time where I like to have a bit of fun and I provide you with a cryptic clue to help announce your first one. And you have to work out which one from the selection it is. So it could have something to do with the artist, the song or album title, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So are you ready?
Go.
A type of fence.
Oh, Ray, a type of fence.
So it could have something to do with the artist, the song, or the album title.
Oh, I think now you've put me on the spot here because when it comes to trivia, all my friends, they never take me because I'm the one who doesn't know the unless it's a B question, but it's usually not. No, I'm going to have to pass on that.
No, you can't. You have to. No, you can't. We just have to sit here for the rest of the show.
The rest of the show.
So what types of fences are there? There's a paling.
A paling.
There's
a metal fence.
Is there what's like a homey kind of English little fence?
A little picket fence.
Yes.
Picket fence.
Yes. Think about picket.
Picket fence. Picket.
Could be the artist.
Could be artist. You've absolutely put me on the spot.
Could be Wilson Pickett.
Wilson Pickett.
Bumblebee Sting Me.
Bumblebee
there
Sting
you go.
Me.
There's the song.
Jeez, I know.
Does that have a meaning for you, Ben?
That one. Well, I thought it was just no. That particular one doesn't. But it's just that nice cutesy sort of song.
Yeah,
cutesy.
It is very cutesy. It's all about bees.
Exactly.
All right. Without further ado, when we come back, we're going to take a bit more of a deep dive into where it all started for Ben Moore and a few things. More. I mean, more is also another word you can just incorporate into anything.
Yes, certainly can.
Don't go away, people. Here it is. It's Bumblebee, in brackets, Sting Me, by Wilson Pickett. Don't go away. You're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC. Oh, welcome back. The time is just 28 minutes past 10 and you're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC with Rae Bonney and Ben Moore. He's an apiarist, environmentalist, father, food lover, and owner of Ben's Bees. Now, Ben, my family have a question for you.
Yes.
Are you moving house?
Yes, yeah. Moving.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, but it'll be local. So I just sort of not sure. It'll be sort of close by. So I'll obviously update that on social media and on the Google platform so people know where to find me, but I will be local. So it's yes. So now I'll be somewhere close.
Breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I just love having you up the road.
It'll be June next year.
June next year.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Anyway, now I mentioned before the break that so just brush that off. as long as you're staying local, that you can still have
Certainly,
Blackburn South on your on your label.
Silly.
I mentioned I've just returned from Sarawak, which is the Malaysian part of Borneo. And I was attending and speaking at the World Congress on Men's Health. And I did take a few days out to experience this little slice of heaven. I was actually staying in a treehouse in a jungle, which was very cool. And brought something back for you. I'm going to have to move away from the microphone here because it's still in my bag. If I can still hear me as I roll back and forward. Now, I've got to go through my bag of tricks here, Ben. Here we go. Look, there we go.
Oh, wow. Look, we have some native.
Yes. I was visiting the Anna Rae's, it's a longhouse in Sarawak, which has a written history of 175 years and over 500 years unwritten. And it's home to the Bina tribe, and their nomadic past saw them settle atop like these hilltops for defence purposes because there was a lot of headhunting that went along.
Oh, wow.
And so the guy that I was travelling with was this lovely Malaysian man. He could even be listening in, actually. He was telling me, he just kept on saying, and they used to impale heads here and here. And I was going, oh, gosh, Anyway, I met this amazing woman who was telling me all about this honey, and because I don't speak their language, I couldn't really understand. But they harvest or they produce a lot of cocoa and pepper and rubber in that region as well. But there's the honey, and it's from a stingless bee.
Yes.
So it tastes actually like really bitter.
Yes. Okay, interesting.
But very medicinal. So you can probably tell me more about this stingless bee antimicrobial kind of properties that it has.
Well, it's actually interesting because when we look at sort of with bees and say the flavour of this, now I'm not going to open this up now.
It's for you to enjoy.
I'm going to take this home and enjoy it. And thank you so much, Rae. But looking at it, it's a cute little jar. It's absolutely,
it is, isn't it?
Absolutely, I love the way of the shape. Now, when we look at obviously with the flavours of honey, now remember that's coming from actual flowers. So depending on the flowers, it's got the influence, not the bees. So it's not like, say, bees make the actual manuka honey. It's actually the flowers, which is a specific type of tea tree. So that has the influence. Now, there's some incredible honeys, once again, touch base before on manuka. But there's one from Nepal called mad honey. Ooh. And it's actually a hallucinogenic honey. And the reason is that the bees forage from rhododendrons, where there's lots of them. Lots of
Kathmandu,
yes, that's right, exactly. And now that's got a particular ingredient in there called guainotoxin. And with too much of a higher dose rate, it's actually mildly hallucinogenic. But in a small doses, the people of Nepal, what they do is they use it medicinally because it's got these incredible properties. Yes. And it's like nutmeg. I think nutmeg's poison, and there's a lot of things like that. But in the small right doses, it's a good thing. So the influence on honeys is absolutely incredible. And then you can go to say Norway, say Germany, where they've got a lot of heather honeys, very fragrant, mild, floral sort of flavors. So absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So, again, you go to any part of the world, I guess it's similar to wine, isn't it? There's regions that produce, like, vastly different things. And they had the samples of this honey there, and the lady gave me just this little vial of it. And I was expecting for it to hit my palate with sweetness, it was almost like vinegar.
Yes.
Until I got used to, wow, this is just a really different experience. Yes. And you could feel the medicinal nature of it as opposed to, this kind of situation. So I thought, I'm bringing that home for Ben. So
thank you so much. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think you can rub it on stuff as well. And she told me also it acts as an aphrodisiac for monkeys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if you've got any monkeys at home.
Well, I'm hairy like a monkey, so it's got a big beard. So who knows?
Anyway, enough about bees. It's getting boring, isn't it? Let's talk about you. What does it feel like being you today, Ben? Today being the operative word.
Yeah, so today's sort of. That's a very good question. I love that question because it's very.
It is my trademark.
It's a trademark question. It's so today specifically. It's mixed emotions. It's sort of that tail end of just that because I'm so busy with bees, 7 days a week from literally July right up into Christmas Day. And sort of a mix of emotions because recently lost a friend of mine who was a beekeeper, and it sort of hit really, really hard. And I've never had to deal with something like that before. And so there's this sort of this high of, coming into the new year, and there's also this grief of losing my my dear friend Jezza. And so so today I've been reflecting on the last sort of 5-6 days on everything and sort of being so appreciative. And I think quite often we lose track of appreciating what's around. I work in some amazing parts of Victoria, and I see these views and these environments, and there's not, I've got no reception. Sometimes I've got to take Starlink with me just so I can communicate and with people. And so it's very, I don't know, sometimes I've learned, this is my New Year's resolution, if we're allowed to have that, is just to appreciate the good people around and, look after those that need help. And of course, look after those bees.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that about Jezza. And, we did have a chat off air early this morning about Jezza and, something that's very, very close to my occupation, and that is male suicide. And, even at the conference that I've just attended in Borneo, there wasn't really nearly enough talk about the social determinants that lead to suicide. We just tend to say, hey, that's just men, because men do occupy about 75% of suicides all over the world. And of every minute of every day that we spend on the planet, another man kills himself. And that is a lot. So while we've been on this show, that's at least 35 men who've died that we know of, and at least 70 attempting. So it's a complex issue, and Ben has actually invited me on his own podcast, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that around, what are we really looking for? And when I mentioned social determinants, it's not as simple, and, probably 95% of male suicides have nothing to do with a mental health problem. So let's don't assume that it's men and their problems that lead to suicide. The social determinants, the top three are relationship breakdown, financial distress, and loss of custody of children. So I'll leave it at that, because I know we're going to talk about things like family business, small business, and the importance of how we support our communities. And, by supporting our communities, we're supporting everyone, because guess what? Male suicide affects everybody. It's not a men's issue. It's an everyone's issue.
That's something I did not know until recently. Sort of the effect of not being in a sort of having these sort of emotions and these feelings and so forth. So it's new territory for me. And that's why I think the last sort of 5-6 days sort of processing that. And then I suppose there's that sort of relationship with me and the bees, and same with Jezza, Jeremy, is having, the similar relationship and just that sort of, I'm not sure how to articulate it, but just, I don't know, that's something for me. I think just now I see my bees, I'm going to think about life a little bit differently. And I think it's just so important. We need to, just look after each other. And you may not see any signs or anything, which we certainly didn't. But it's, I don't know, just be there. Just be talk and just talk about things and just be, especially blokes, because we're so, especially farmers, we've got our big beards and hairy chests and grubby fingernails. But, I think deep down inside, I think men are sort of more vulnerable than what we're led to believe.
Oh, well, that's my whole life's work, and I can confidently say that, I work with men every single day, and most days I'll be dealing with somebody who has a plan to kill themselves. And, the idea that men are born not showing emotion, seeking help or speaking out is bullshit. It's how men are raised. So we really have to be looking at how we're raising boys than how we're fixing men. Because, again, it's not a biological disposition that the male species doesn't do those things. And especially here in Australia, you speak about, agriculture, where has the highest rates of suicide. That's all about isolation and expectation as opposed to being a male.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree. And especially being a commercial beekeeper, because being a hobbyist beekeeper, there's this absolutely lovely romance of having your beehive, having a cup of tea and watching your bees. And I've got, bees obviously in my backyard, but with beekeeping and like a lot of sort of agricultural sort of industries, it's very insular. You know, with being a beekeeper, you're on the roads, you're in very rural areas. You know, when I say areas, you can be incredibly remote areas, not so much rural.
Yeah, take us through a day in the life of, like, what's a typical day look like for you?
So myself is very, I suppose for me, because I call myself my business. Now, when I say business, I can assure you the bees don't work for me. I work for them. That's for sure. So when I say business, but it's very, I call it licorice all sorts. And the reason being is licorice all sorts. You know, I do things from making, beeswax candles, got an online shop, small scale honey production, do various public speaking events and that type of thing. Obviously removing bees. We do that. Pest control, so wasps, those hideous little creatures. I don't like hurting animals, but European wasps, Vespulla germanica, are nasty. We actually...
So even though they look bee-ish, you don't like them?
Oh, I don't like them, no. Oh. They're really... It's...
Do they serve a purpose?
In Australia, no. They were introduced into Tasmania in 1956, and then they come into the mainlands in the early 1970s, and they're such an invasive pest. Now, for the listeners, I think it's going to be a shocking season because we've had higher sort of winter temperatures. Didn't have all those frosts that we usually have. And I think the European wasps are going to be in absolute plague proportions in sort of that February, March, that pre-Easter, because their toxicity, their venom is I think it's 38 times more than a bee. They keep stinging. They're just little a-holes. they're a nasty little creature.
So if they serve no purpose here, like, say, cane toads,
yes.
foxes, like rabbit, we go on about how many European things we have here. What purpose do they serve in Europe?
So in Europe, the biology is very different. So when we look at the European wasp, its biology is very similar to the bumblebee. There's quite a few different species of bumblebees, but all those little cute ones we see in sort of photos, and they're in, that's right, in Tasmania. So with them, what happens is the colony will die over winter because the temperatures get below 0 degrees. So that colony dies. It's only the queen or queens that survive. So their nest starts up again, and then they'll forage on various sort of other invertebrates, other insects on, the sort of native deciduous trees. So they're part of that balance. But being introduced, once again, like the cane toads, there's no other predators, and there's no predators for the European wasp, and they grow exponentially. I think the biggest nest was dug up, and it's actually in Launceston Museum. I think it weighs like 76 kilos, and it's 2/3 the size of a small car.
Wow.
And they're shocking. And there used to be a problem, I remember as a child in primary school, where children, would have like a soft drink and not have a straw. And if you get stung in the throat, anaphylaxis. Yeah. So there was cases like that. So you don't like them. They're not
it's really preventative things we can do to, circumvent wasps taking up occupation at our homes?
Oh yes, we can, and it's from a hardware store. So one of those traps, you can actually even make them if you sort of jump online and have a look. Is making a trap at the start of spring, that sort of September, because that's when the queen's on the move and they're starting to find a place to call home. And creating, there's various recipes, but using obviously something like a sugar-based yeast, and you can even use something like some sardines. Having that sweet, sugary substance and that smell, that pungent smell, it'll actually attract the queen wasps because they need to forage and they need carbohydrates to keep on pushing on and start their nest. And you kill the queen wasp, you kill a nest.
Oh, right. So they will die if they eat.
Yes, yeah. Oh, it's like a trap. So think of it like a one-way trap. So they'll actually go in this bottle, and then they'll go in there, and then what will happen is actually drown because they can't fly out. And it's sort of, you see them, as I said, in the hardware stores and so forth. And you can actually make them like really cheap.
Yeah. That's really good advice because I would never have thought of that. But then, I've seen wasp nests, and they can't even say wasp nests. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, but it's so. I suppose back to the question. It's every day is different. I can be in Sydney or overseas, in Canada, doing a talk on bees. I can
do you get invited to the conferences as like an expert?
Oh no! Now I'm not an expert.
No one's an expert.
No,
on
I'm
it.
not. No, I'm passionate at what I do, and I'm obsessed about
Do
bees.
you speak about Australian bees in particular?
No, I don't know all that much about native bees because it's unfortunately for us in Melbourne, it's too cold for us. But the European bee, yes, I can talk lots. But always learning and just researching. I'm even so passionate about bees. I got the bee tattoo on my right side shoulder because I just love everything I do is bees. You know what I mean? If I'm not working with bees, I'm dreaming about them. But
when did that start for you?
Oh, the true story. When I was 11 years old, going on 12, my mum bought a book, and it's called Beekeeping in the UK, which I've still got to this day. And I love this fascination. And I grew up never influenced by beekeepers. My parents weren't beekeepers or anything like that.
So before that book, there was kind of nothing about
Nothing, no, there's nothing. And I had this book and just this fascination. And because, they sting and they hurt. And then when I turned 14, I said to mum and dad, I don't want a puppy or a kitten. I want a beehive. That was a true story. And 14, so I got a beehive. And I learned even at high school, and this used to get me in trouble because I was a cheeky little bugger. I really was. I wasn't disrespectful, but I was always academically. I was terrible. I'd failed year.
Where did you grow up?
I was out in the Yarra Valley, so I was in Seville.
Yep.
Seville, so just near Monbulk, sort of that side of town. And academically, I was terrible. I was the only one to fail year 10 at school. And that sort of hit hard as a youngster. And I became a chef, a week before my 16th birthday. I got an apprenticeship as a chef. And it actually sort of hit hard. And because, to be that one person of failure was sort of a kick in the guts a little bit. And I sort of, when you're young, your emotions, you sort of deal with things differently as an adult. And sometimes I do talks at schools and incursions and things. And I tell the students, no matter what you do, you just find what you love. You find what you love, you're passionate about it. Don't worry about the money. That'll come naturally. You find what you love, because I think so much we're sort of in society, we're forced, our parents want us to be doctors, lawyers, these sort of high ticket type sort of professions. But, if you've want to be a tattoo artist. If my daughter wanted to be a tattoo artist and she loves doing that, I would absolutely encourage her to do it. Obviously a bit controversial and so forth, but
is it? Why?
I think sometimes tattoos can. I know society's obviously sort of changing, evolving, but sometimes you see someone with the tattoos in a shop and there's someone sort of older, they're a bit scared of them because tattoos usually have this sort
stigma.
A stigma of being. I know we're growing out of it. We certainly are, but I think because tattoos tell a story, and that's why I've got them. So I think doing what we love, and I was lucky enough, I found that passion, and had bees ever sort of since, on and off, sort of travelled a bit and so forth, and then in 2008.
What happened to the original hive?
Oh yeah, good question. Yeah, so that was from a beekeeper called Mr. Cox, and there was a funny story actually, because my father would buy honey in jars, and as one of these things at times change. We sort of evolve on how we like things, but the one thing, I don't know if he deliberately put dead bees in the honey, but there's always, you open up the jar or the tin and there'd be dead bees in there. And you scoop them out, and you wouldn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
But isn't it interesting? And I don't know whether he was sort of getting older, Mr. Cox, and if he deliberately done it because it's a sign of authenticity. But if I did that now, oh, geez, imagine if you found a dead bee in a jar of honey.
I think I'd be wrapped.
Some people, you'd be wrapped. I'd be wrapped too. Yeah. But I think some people would be mortified.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's right. We're so homogenized, aren't we?
Correct.
We're just, we love everything. Like we talked about crystallized honey before. We're like, oh my God, what's wrong with my honey?
Correct.
It's like, oh God, read your books, people.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I think it's just education, learning. It's on things like that, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So and I totally understand it, but just actually, in regards to that creamed honey, they started doing it in the mid 1950s using dairy machinery to pasteurize milk.
Right.
It got converted into doing honey as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that honey is a byproduct of what you do, but I guess it's a brand. It's just getting your brand out there all the time. And I actually do have something else in the show coming up which will explain your reach and what sorts of things people can rely on you for as well. I mean, it's not dissimilar to having your plumber or your electrician. To have your beekeeper is just one of those things that you can lord over people at a dinner party. Oh, he's a beekeeper.
Everyone needs a beekeeper, and you never know. And sometime in your life, you want to know a beekeeper, and that's one thing for me is support all beekeepers. I mean, no matter where, obviously it's community based, and I appreciate the support of the community. I really do. But supporting other beekeepers, even myself, I've mentioned before, if I'm driving somewhere, say it could be northern New South Wales, and I see a beekeeper selling honey side of the road, I'm pulling in because I want to support, because I know the blood.
You want to talk bees as well.
I want to talk bees, but I know the blood, sweat and tears that goes into that jar or that bottle of honey. So, and especially too, there's a story behind the honey. It's not just, when you're buying from a beekeeper. Now, this goes with all that whole slow food movement. If you're buying something, from the farmers markets, and we do have a wonderful one here in the in Nuttawading, and you're actually buying a story. It's not just necessarily you're buying something to consume it and forget about it. You're buying a piece of a story.
Yeah, and I think that's something that COVID really gave us, was bringing that community back, and that we had to rely on community. And then we because we're not racing through life anymore, we're actually seeing these things going, wow, I didn't know that was in my community. Or didn't, like for me, because I was so obsessed with, drinking wine, not really, but, to open my eyes and go, well, what else is there out there for me that's going to give me that same feeling? Or, it's going to, ignite my happiness hormones, my dopamine, my oxytocin. And that's, I put that in my coffee every morning, and it's just like, yeah, I'm excited to wake up because I know that they're waiting for me. That's true. But speaking of, being at home and family and stuff, can you describe the parallels between your world of bees and how you parent?
Oh, geez, yeah, very.
You'd like that question.
I absolutely love that question. So, as far as
because you've got 3 children.
I've got round 1. I've got 3 children, and I'm on round 2 now, where I've got little Milan. So I've got 2 rounds.
Right. Okay.
I bug it up for round 1.
Yeah.
That was my fault.
Well, that's another show, isn't it?
That's another show. And the reason being is I work too much. I actually spend too much time with my bees, and that was the downfall of the relationship. So it definitely was, part of it.
It's the bees or me.
It was bees or me,
Not
yeah.
The bees knees.
The bees, exactly, yeah. Yeah. So, and I didn't recognise that at the time because I was just so into the bees. Spent more time with those because the bees gave me something where my ex-wife, didn't. So, and then obviously I neglected the family, neglected her especially, and that was kind of the sort of downfall. And we're friends today. We're actually one of those ones we annoy each other and probably piss one another off. But it's we're actually one of those good ones. There's no issues, and as far as trying to control everything, and you have your little argy-bargies, but it's I suppose the bees taught me the respect for nature. So how I like to with my children is to educate them on the small things. Now that could just be stopping. Now probably most people don't do this, but quite some time ago my children used to think I was weird. Go, hey Dad, you're off your head. But I'd stop and look at a gum tree in a paddock. And that gum tree, there's simplicity. And we drive past trees all the time. Now, obviously, trees play an importance for my industry, but there's something very special about that tree. And that tree is its own ecosystem. You've got, little micro insects, and you've got another type of insect eating that insect. You've got a spider eating it. You've got higher logs where you've got native birds, nesting in it. You've got, it could be, if it's a gum tree, like a river red gum, we have obviously flowers that supports lorikeets. So we have this whole, and those lorikeets may die, then we have an eagle or a falcon or a hawk or something. So the simplicity of something with a tree that we sort of forget, and we just drive past it all the time. I've taught my kids those small things, appreciate that, because there is something there that most people aren't looking at. And that could be a suburban street tree, and as crazy as it sounds, whenever I'm driving, I'm not looking at the roads, I'm looking up at the trees. Actually, no, it's not true. No, it's a joke. Yeah. But actually, so I'd really love, admire, sort of nature. So if I can impart that onto my children, because, it's little things, sometimes I've stopped and you get, sort of, there's little roadhouse sort of sides where, sort of park and, with a little toilet break and there's rubbish there, I'll just spend 2 minutes. All right, guys, just pick up a bits of rubbish, throw it in a bag, because that's that impact, yeah. Do
you know, when I was in my treehouse in Borneo, and I'll fast forward, I was with, I'm also a grandparent as well. I love talking about my granddaughter on air as well. Hello, Evelyn, if if you're listening in. And I was with Rose and Evelyn and the family at some carols in Emerald on Friday night. And I just returned home, and I was remarking to Rose, because the trees in Emerald are just beautiful. You know, the nature there is just stunning. And I said, I have this sort of Borneo landscape still really fresh in my mind. And I said, I remember just leaving the treehouse and sitting on my balcony, which overlooks the sea, and there's just jungle everywhere. And I said, within 30 seconds, I identified 4 species. There was a lizard, there were 2 butterflies, there was a squirrel, and there was something else. I can't remember. Just sitting still with nature. And I said, you know, you can't compare beauty in nature. It's just there, and it's just there. And that's what you're describing, is having those moments where you're in that space, and that is all.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the end of the show. No, it's not really. You and I are both drifting off into some nature kind of fantasy.
And I'm just warming up. We haven't spoken about bee venom yet. The importance of bee venom.
Well, okay. How long will that take? Can you do that in 2 minutes?
I certainly can. So bee venom.
Yes.
Now, we obviously would look at honey, pollen, and that type of thing spoke about, but there's some interesting, fascinating research with bee venom. The positive effects on, it's called apitoxin, and there's various peptides within the actual bee venom. There is, once again, science helping people with cancers, breast cancer, prostate cancer, Lyme's disease, pimples, that real terrible acne that some teenagers get, or adults for that matter. There's some amazing research that's happening now with bee venom. So now obviously we need bee venom because one of my boys...
How do you harvest it?
Oh, you can actually do it ethically. So like a little electrified glass plate that the bees will sting, that'll crystallise, and then you can scrape that off. But one of my boys has actually become allergic to bees. I was going to give him away to the orphanage, but I couldn't do that. So I actually put him on the desensitisation program, and he's good as gold now. And you have microdoses of bee venom, but interesting research.
Where can we? Do you do any research yourself?
Well, academically, I'm not the brightest sort of. So
maybe academically, you just don't fit into that enormously tight framework.
Yes, correct.
That kind of discipline.
Yes, yeah. So, put me behind a mic, behind a camera, and I can talk lots about bees. But that research, I'm sort of part of with organisations and various sorts of communities, clubs, that type of thing. So, which I'm part of. But that research, there's gurus out there, which is. Yeah, I leave that to them, but I'm looking at actually harvesting it. But
like a colony or any community, we all have to contribute something to make the collective a whole, don't we?
Yes, spot on.
So without, I know being at this conference, I'm not an academic. I do a reasonable amount of research and collect data, but when people are asking me about my PhD or my doctorate, no, there ain't one. But I do work with the people, and I do collect that data. So, we all have to play a role, the doing and also the learning piece. It all goes into one. So now we are up for our next very special guest song request. Ben, I bet you can't wait for this. You're probably nervous, like given the performance on your last one.
Yes, I know.
And the cryptic clue. So here goes. You ready for it?
Oh, okay.
How to talk to your kids about sex. Right?
So that's the clue.
That's the clue. So it's got something to do with the title of a song that you have chosen.
I know. You know what the funny thing is, because even though I chose the songs,
it was about 6 months ago.
It was 6 months ago, but then in my head there's a few sort of bee-inspired, bee-related songs. So
if you're talking to a young kid about sex, you would talk about what?
Birds and the Bees.
That's
I know.
Oh my God. You're definitely the worst performer.
I told you. That's why I don't get invited to trivia.
And who sings this song? Dean Martin.
Dean Martin.
That's right. The Birds and the Bees.
Dean Martin.
Any meaning behind that, or it's just a bee reference?
No, bee reference on this one.
All right, Ben. So when we come back, let's dive a bit more into the evolution or the birth of Ben's Bees, because I'd like to know what it feels like sort of, starting a small business here. And, for those people listening in who don't necessarily want to start a bee business, but, because your marketing and stuff, it's simple, but it's effective. And, I just want to reference that Facebook post again. 1.1 thousand people liked a really simple post about an honesty box. And I think I know the answer to that, but I'm going to hear it from you when we get back. So here we go. Birds and the Bees by Dean Martin. You're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC. Don't go away. Welcome back. The time is just 1 minute past 11 and you're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC with Rae Bonney. I'm joined by boss bee man Ben Moore. He not only owns Ben's Bees, but also educates, mentors and advocates for bee communities, or should I say colonies, all over the world. There you go.
Thanks, Rae.
That's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, we were just talking about social media. And you saying that you've been off social media a little bit and because of, certain elements of it, I guess. And I contested that in the way that, it's our responsibility how we consume news. And one of my very best friends in the world, Steve Carey, he's the ex-news director of Channel 7. And I had this argument with Steve many years ago about his participation in a show called Today Tonight or something, or A Current Affair, one of the two he was director of. And I said, what's that crap? How could you put your name to that? And he said to me, Rae, again, it's your responsibility how you consume this kind of media. Then you go out into the world and you make sense of it. We just put it out there so you can work out whether you like it or not and if you need to know more information. But if you just take one bite of that and consume that as the one and only piece of information, well then poor you, because that makes you irresponsible.
Yeah, totally agree, Rae. And I think it's important that it's not the quantity of people that follow you, it's the quality of people.
That's right. And if you can, and I know myself in my world, speaking about men's health, mental health, that when I'm presenting, people won't often comment because of stigma, and I'm well assured of that. But I do know that if I affect one person out of 1,000, that's my job done.
It's spot on. I'm exactly the same.
It can't be about us. That when we're putting messages out into the community, because I'm pretty sure not everyone agrees with my view on things, and I don't expect that. I do love learning from others, and I do like even learning things that I think that I won't like. So I think we just have to look at everything that we can and take that into our own value and belief systems and see how it resonates.
Yes, yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, no, absolutely, sort of totally agree. It's social media is an interesting one because there's sort of a marketing tool for any business. It's good, but then it's look at the cost in things. I just do mine organically, as far as I'm not interested in giving.
Where do you actually make the honey? Like literally?
Oh, I see. So I've got this mobile van. So it's like, think of it. So to visualize for listeners, so it's like a caravan.
Yeah.
But it's all decked out with.
Is that the thing in your driveway?
No.
That looks like a holiday van.
That's actually that's not a. It's a caravan. That's a hybrid camper van. That one, but that's sometimes I'm working in remote areas. I'll take that because my diesel bill, even though I was sort of all about conservation and sort of and the environment, but I feel guilty about the amount of diesel I consume. Yes, yeah. So I sort of think, what can I do better? So I bought that camper van so I actually can take it to somewhere, sort of north of Echuca or up far north, sort of Victoria, and actually stay there for a couple of days, work with my bees. So I'm not backwards and forwards because there was some weeks there I got a long range tank on my truck and my ute, and it could be over in excess of $1,000 per week in diesel. Yeah. Now, when you look at that, particulate matter and the environment, I thought, what can I do a bit better? If I save a few trips, it just sort of helps.
That is really thoughtful and gives you a little mini holiday. But going back to your family, our family discussion before, does that impact your family when you're not there?
Oh, it does. I suppose with my sort of family situation, so my three children, so Summer, Byron and Lachlan, so they live in Inverloch with their mum, and it's sort of every sort of second week to maybe every third, and then school holidays they come up with me, and then I've got Milan, who's he's just turning 3 on the 29th of December, and maybe something about bees and the fertility of bees, but I must be incredibly fertile because I got number 5 in the cooker at the moment.
Congratulations!
So thank you so much. So I don't know. It's and there is actually, I've got to mention too, with regards to fertility, there's another product that bees produce called royal jelly.
Yes, that's that stuff we put on our skin.
On the skin, that's right. And they're actually using it. Some people, and now once again, there's not a heap of scientific research, but I've known of some people going through IVF and it can help, that process
fertility,
of fertility, both for the man and the woman.
Oh, right.
So
where do you put it?
Oh no, you consume it. No, you eat it. No, it's not like that. No, exactly. That's not one of those ones where it's
no on-air demonstrations here, ladies and gents. That is funny, because I remember royal jelly, back in the 80s was so popular. You could buy it at all the markets and stuff, that it was this magical kind of youth preserver.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's got this amazing sort of ingredients in there as well. But it's a bit, what's the word? It's not, it can help. It's not like other things where there's a lot more science research sort of there. So,
Well, speaking of social media, because I adore posting everything I can, especially this show. And yesterday when I posted about this show, I had quite a bit of feedback, and one was from a guy, Matthew Greer, and I've known Matt for many years through his beautiful wife Louise, and we've not seen each other for a long time, but he wrote to me, and this is what he said. He said, Ben's Bees was the company we called twice to rehome the bees in our backyard. We didn't want to kill them, so I hope they are happy on the farm. He even explained to us that they were robber bees stealing old honey. He offered to help set up a hive on the property, and while tempted, we weren't ready yet.
There we go.
There you go. And they're right across the other side of town in, I don't know, somewhere in maybe Flemington, around that area.
Okay, yes, yeah. And that name rings a bell. So, well, thank you, Matthew. Thank you.
So tell us about that in particular. So they would have had and I know them well, that they would have been very, very concerned about the bees.
Yeah, but there's safety.
Yes.
Yes.
So what does that look like in context of, your licorice all sorts days that you go in, you rehome bees? Like, where do you take them home with you? Or?
Yes. So it's a bit involved. Let's say, okay, so we'll break this down. So during spring, that sort of, peak spring, sort of September, October, November, when bees wave reproduction is when they swarm. And what that looks like is, so there's a parent colony somewhere. It could be a hive in a tree, could be someone's hive that they sort of haven't managed as good as they should have. And roughly, a third to half the workers take off with the old queen and they go looking for a new place to set up home. Now, sometimes, they can get a bit of a bad rap because bees go into spots where we don't want them to, in houses, down chimneys, and that type of thing. So sometimes people want to, obviously, that's a great introduction to people wanting to get into bees because you can actually get them. But so for me, there's new sort of laws, and there's a bit of a thing now because we may have heard of this specific little mite, this parasite called Varroa destructor, and that is, think of it like a flea. And now that's in New South Wales at the moment. It can be quite devastating for bees. Now, this particular strain that we have in Australia is not as bad as what it is overseas because it's not harbouring the viruses. So for me, I've just got to quarantine them in a loose way, the best I can, so they're not near any other bees.
Okay, there you go. But I love that. And also from around the corner from my friend Anne, she's just a few streets away, she said to me, I'm pretty sure I've bought a jar of Ben's Bees, which I don't know how, and you could not be sure if you bought it or not because it's pretty clear. Anyway, I love supporting local growers and farmers, she says. Hoping I get time to listen while I'm in the garden planting flowers for the bees. And Anne has the most amazing garden, and it's her baby. Every day she's posting on social media whatever magnificent thing that she has raised like a child in her garden. So if she's a couple of streets away from you, would your bees be visiting her botanic gardens?
Yes, certainly. So Anne, I'm going to send you an invoice for pollination for my bees. So expect to receive that in the mail. It needs to be paid before Christmas. My bees have pollinated her flowers. No, I'm joking. It's joking. Definitely. So a bee's their foraging radius is up to 5 kilometres.
Right. Okay.
But a bee, she's pretty smart, so she only wants to go ideally 500 metre sort of radius. Now, the 500 metre radius is still sort of a big area. So
yeah. So when you say that you're going to send Anne an invoice, yes. And I go, okay, how does that convert? Wouldn't she be sending you an invoice?
Oh, for honey? No, that's a good question. But so the honey gets left on for them, so for the bees. so the contract I've got written up is because I've pollinated her vegetables. Well, my bees have, not me, but my bees have. So the contract says, and pollen, bees store pollen, which is a bit different to nectar. So nectar gets converted into honey. Pollen's like their protein. So my bees do that.
Okay, so they take the pollen from the flower.
Oh, yes, yeah. So 4 things. All right, the quiz time for you, Ray.
Okay, right.
So I've told you one, probably the hardest one, is propolis.
Yes.
So bees collect nectar, which they convert into, that's a sugar, they convert into honey. They collect pollen, where they store that, and they obviously use those as their protein. Think of it like their steak.
Yeah.
What's the 4th thing that bees collect?
Oh, jeepers. This is worse than water?
Yeah, that's correct. Water. So bees actually will collect water. Now, when the temperature gets high, so inside of beehive is 34 degrees. So that doesn't matter if it's in Indonesia, if it's in Norway in the middle of winter, it's in Nuttawading in springtime. It's always 34 degrees Celsius. So now let's say we've got some hot weather coming up ahead.
How do they regulate that?
So that's...
Sorry, all these questions.
Yes. No, so it's interesting. So now that's where bees produce honey for themselves. Now, as I sort of touch base with some vegans buy honey off me, now bees are the only animal to produce a surplus to their needs. So they will produce a surplus. So if you're strict vegan, I totally respect that. But some bees will actually produce more than they actually need. So, but that honey will get converted into metabolic energy in the form of heat. They'll use their wing muscles to vibrate. So over wintertime, they will create this metabolic energy, 34 degrees. But during summertime, okay, we've got some hot weather ahead. And we know in January, we're going to get probably pushing, 40, probably just over. You've got to cool the hive down. So what some of the bees will do is they will, you got water tanker bees, so we'll go collect water and they'll bring that back and then they'll hold the water and then they'll spit it to another bee and pass it to another bee and they will spit it within the hive and they got another bunch of bees at the front creating their evaporative cooler. So they're putting the airflow over the water to cool the hives down.
That sounds so complex. How do they work out who does what?
That's one of the mysteries of the world.
Is it?
I think there's, once again, I think outside of humans, bees are the most studied creature in the world, outside of humans.
Because I'm thinking ants as well. Is there any similarities between how ants behave and bees?
Yes, there certainly is. I think with a lot of social insects, there is very a lot of similarities on that, that sort of biology as far as, you've got workers, you've got, reproductive queens, you've got reproductive males. So there is a lot of similarities there and just the way that everything's based on their beehive. So whatever they do, it's for the benefit of each other.
So the honey, like just say there were no humans, why do they produce honey?
Well, yes, being European honeybees. So when we being European, so obviously it gets colder over there. Could be a lot of bees come from like Germany, sort of Russia, Czech Republic and areas where it's really super cold. So they will consume that honey over winter. Now during the course of
so they eat it.
Yeah, they eat it. Yes, they eat it. It's their sugar. Yeah, so their sugar. So they will consume it. To actually create that heat. Now, look at Australia, and the same reason why bees do so well, as I mentioned before with the European wasps, is we've got the perfect temperatures here. And once again, we're beekeepers. We're not bee-havers, we're beekeepers. So we're looking after those bees and managing the hives for the benefit of that colony.
So when you say beekeeper, then I think of commercial honey production.
Yes.
Is that beekeeping?
Oh, 100%. It certainly is. It's just on a different sort of scale. So as opposed to, say, having, 1-2 hives, say a recreational sort of hobbyist beekeeper would have in their backyard, they will have them in on trucks and so forth and moved. And that's where a lot of, the big honey producing beekeepers will move. So they'll say, okay, a couple of examples. Say we've got, start of spring, we've got clover in the northwest region of Victoria. That's in flower. They move the bees there. But then all of a sudden we've got, say, ironbark in sort of the Gippsland region. They'll move their bees there.
So like Capilano and stuff like that. Like for the amount of money that gets produced for all of our use in supermarkets and stuff like that, they've just got trucks that go around. Yes,
we're not allowed to say the C word on this show. being in the Capilano is not allowed to say that word. Well, it's an interesting one, and it's kind of, and I'm not, they've done a lot of good things for the industry and so forth, but there's one little problem with there, and there's a little bit once again, I was sort of passed it on sort of social media, but the biggest issue with them is the importation of honey from overseas.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And then, so the problem is with that, you know, because on a price point.
Yep.
You know, so, you know, with an industry, now certain countries, their definition of honey is not the same definition of our honey in Australia. Now, as a beekeeper, honey is up there as one of the most fraudulent food items in the world. I could be cheating all of Blackburn and all the local community and sneaking in 20% sucrose, sugar, into that honey. And I could sneak that in. No one's going to know. No one's going to know. No. My profits go up by 20%. So there I am getting around in my Maserati, and geez, you know, Ben's Bees must be doing all right, selling a few jars of honey.
Maseratis.
Exactly, yellow Maserati. So when we look at that, so that's where it's really interesting, and that's why it's important, you know, with honey. And please, you know, I really encourage support other beekeepers. You know, I mean, I'd love to support the people give me, really, truly, from the bottom of my heart. I really absolutely love it. But, you know, if I'm allowed to say, there's another beekeeper in Forest Hill, the bearded beekeeper, Adrian, and he's in Forest Hill, fantastic beekeeper, good friend of mine, and he sells his honey from his front door. He doesn't have an honesty box, but you go knock on his door. If you look on social media, you'll find him.
Okay, yeah. Might try. No, I won't.
Yeah, no, please, no. I always, as I said, you know, I mean, it's important. That's why.
Does he use the same methodology as you do?
Yes, he might. Yes, yeah, and we work together, and I think that's where beekeepers sometimes, I think that it's a very male-dominated industry, and a sort of in an industry sort of level.
Is that because you're cheating all the women out of that job?
Oh no, it's not that. It's not that. It's I think
that was sarcasm.
Oh, was it sarcasm? It's, no. I think it's sort of. I can't have an explanation, but I think it's a very male-dominated industry. I think the average age of a beekeeper is 64.
Yeah.
His name is usually John, Peter, or Paul.
Yes.
It's just, so it's kind of now there.
Is there, like, just, sorry to interrupt you, but just say there's people listening in going, oh, that sounds like a good career for me. Is it something you can study at university?
Yes. So some TAFEs have got certificate 3 in beekeeping. I think keeping bees, it's one of those things you've got to sort of do your apprenticeship first. Yeah,
because I was going to lead in, I mean, we were supposed to be talking about the evolution of Ben's Bees and how it all started, because I had a question to you about you must employ people as well.
Yes.
And how, you know, what are your recruitment practices like? What kind of people do you recruit into your business?
Positive, passionate, and punctual. 3 P's. I should start with B.
Do they need to know anything about?
No. So as long as they're passionate, you know. I mean, so I've got 2 full timers.
I know you've got some girls as well.
Yes. So
I know that I spy on you, but
that's good. No, that's
keep an eye out.
So I've got Ashley. So Ashley is one of my beekeepers, and I got Callum, and they are both absolutely awesome. Both very different. Ashley is an absolute trooper. Yeah, because there's some days we work, and I'm not kidding. I'll probably have work cover after me. Yeah, that's right, after me. But it's, you know, we can work sort of 23 hours, 24 hours solid.
Yeah.
And it's not, and there's rare. It's not like that's every day, but you know, just with moving bees and things. But Ashley is an absolute gem, and then I've got Callum. So sometimes people see Ashley and you're not Ben's Bees, and you know what? You asked about the evolution of Ben's Bees, and that's one of the biggest mistakes I made. Is I called it Ben's Bees. And I've contemplated rebranding. Yeah. I really don't like it because it's not about me. It's about the bees and my team, you know what I mean? Because it actually in a way, I never thought about it back in 2008 when I started it. And I really shouldn't have called it Ben's Bees because it's too much about me where it's not. It's about the bees, and it's, you know, there's Ashley. She's a better beekeeper than I am. Yeah. She's awesome, you know, and
what makes her a better beekeeper than you?
Okay. I think this is my theory, and I think females are better beekeepers because I think there's no sort of real logic in this, but I think a beehive is predominantly females. I think they resonate better. I think, you know, females are very calm, more likely to be nurturing, patient, where blokes, especially me, you know, I'm sort of 6'3", I got size 16 shoe. I'm a
Clodhopper.
a clodhopper, exactly. In and out, and that type of thing. Where I think from the beekeepers I always see, they're always beautiful. There's this almost this symphony of from when they light the smoker to getting inside a beehive. So I really do mean that.
Yeah. No, it's a good it's a good observation to make. Because there was that other question I had for you before about the parallels between, parenting and beekeeping, and you sort of used some of that there in terms of patience. You mentioned patience, and I wondered how that sort of taught you to be a more patient parent, or, by having to be
definitely.
patient with your bees.
Yes.
And just wait for things to happen rather than try and push your own agenda of let's get out of here in 12 hours rather than 23.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly. And just knowing that, also when we look at a beehive, you're going to have, say, 30 different hives. They've actually all got different personalities. So
where are your hives?
I've got them sort of, the local ones that produce most of the honey are in Doncaster. People may know, it was the Geddes water plant nursery.
Yeah. He's just having some water now.
Just having a sip. So Geddes on Elizabeth Street. So I think.
So you do just go and say, "Hey, can I take up residence here?"
I say, "Can I just?" It's. I've been there for a long time now. So if I'm driving around and I see a spot that's good for bees, now that could be absolutely anywhere. I've got a lot of bees out in the Yarra Valley.
Can you just plonk a hive anywhere?
Well, place it. Because
it's not like people are going to go, "Oh, I might steal that." Without any sort
it rarely happens.
Equipment.
Exactly. No, it really happens. So, if I see a spot there, I've only ever been rejected once, and that was in, when you're driving towards sort of Warburton, Hillsville, you go right, Warburton Highway, and then that's Melbourne Highway. Excuse me. And there's a guy there, he had this particular paddock. He's on the right side there. And it was full of, now beekeepers, we call this Salvation Jane, this particular plant. But most people might know it as Patterson's curse.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So beekeepers, we call it Salvation Jane. And I said, mate, I saw him mowing his lawns on his ride-on lawnmower. I've always got jars of honey on board in my vehicles. And there's a jar of honey, mate. Any chance I'll put some bees there? And he said, mate, unfortunately, the council said, unfortunately, no, because he's got to mow it. He's got to get rid of it because it's a noxious pest. Yes. So, and unfortunately, I couldn't put my bees there. So, but, my success rate's awesome because if you've got a farm, ideally it needs to be sort of quite a substantial if I can. Everyone loves it, because you've got a lifetime supply of honey. Yeah,
of course. But going back to the how you produce it, and you mentioned this truck you've got, it sort of reminds me a bit of Breaking Bad,
Yeah, yes.
Is it like that?
It is like that. Yeah, it kind of is. But it's so it's all stainless steel equipment. So think of it, painting that picture as, a frame would come in. So with that, when I say frame, so like, honeycomb, you said it's in a full-size frame. There's this what's called an uncapping machine. So that goes through there and it takes off just the outside wax. So we all should be familiar sort of with honeycomb. And that exposes the honey. Then it goes into this spinner. So it's like a big metal tank. Using centrifugal force, it spins it. That honey is pushed out of those cells, and then using a special pump, which pumps the honey, that can go into, drums, buckets, that type of thing.
But given that, you must supply to like all over the world, do you?
Oh, no. So as far honey's the least thing I do.
I know, but I see it in shops and stuff like that. Like,
it's not that many shops. I reckon there's only, I'm really fussy. Sometimes shops will ask me, oh, can I sell you honey? And I'm like, well, tell me what you sell, why. It's not just so
it's even more special to me then.
Yes.
Given that not a lot of people are enjoying it as much as I am.
Yes. Yeah. So
limited supply.
It is a limited supply. Great. So it's only
how many jars would you make, say, in a month?
Oh, no, it varies because really it's only the process is generally speaking twice per year.
Oh.
So sort of just before Christmas and then just sort of February, March. It only happens twice.
But so how many jars would you make then?
Oh, I have no idea.
I'm just worried that you're going to run out.
No, so I've always got my personal supply.
Yes.
No, it's generally don't because once again, I don't want to sell it to, I had Costco in Ringwood approach me.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm not. selling that because I don't want. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. You know,
Yeah,
I'd love
yeah.
the support, but no, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. But
Well, there's something that it's blown my mind. So I had a completely different bias against, that you, not bias against you, but this idea that, you were producing thousands.
no, no, it's not. It's as I said, I don't like the word byproduct because it's just got that negative sort of connotation.
Well,
to it.
it's part of the, I guess, the integrated
Yes.
part of your business.
Yes.
And it's an integrated business that has lots of different moving parts.
Exactly.
Because also, one thing that I make sure that I do is I wash my jar out and I return it to the honey dunny as well.
The honey dunny,
Yeah.
exactly. That's awesome. And thank you so much for everyone that do that. So sometimes I just replace the lids, but just about, once again, the environment, recycling, the best we can.
Yeah.
No, just doing that little bit, even if it's 1-2%.
Do you know, I think the biggest problem with recycling is that we really just don't know how to do it, and nobody's giving us very clear instructions about how to recycle. And somebody said to me the other day, who was very, very knowledgeable in recycling, if you don't know, don't throw.
Yeah, don't throw. Yeah.
And I thought that's probably the best advice I'd ever been given, because when you do think that you think something's recyclable and you pop it in that bin, well, then that contaminates all the things if it's wrong.
Yes, if it's wrong, that's right. And I think that we've got a big shout out to the White Horse Council, don't they? They do some marvellous things.
Well, they pay us, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they do some marvellous things. And what was it? Just it was a few months ago. That little compost, bucket. That was awesome.
Yeah,
having that, and I use one all the time. Exactly.
Which also has really clear instructions on
Yes,
it. Exactly. And you go, can I put my meat bones in?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, it's funny. Oh, Ben, look at the time. It's, 27 minutes past 11, so we really have to get this third special guest song request out of the way. This is going to make you laugh. I said to my son, Rory, I said, with the special guest song request, Cryptic Clues, I'm just going to make them all, this relates to bees.
Yes.
But he said, no, don't do that, Mum. But this one does relate to bees. So you only requested 3.
Yes.
And I've got the last one. So this is the last one of yours that you have requested. So it can only be, we've already had Wilson Pickett's Bumblebee Sting Me. We've already had The Birds and the Bees. So there's one more.
Head in the Heart.
That's the one.
That's the one.
And it's called Honeybee. Any significance?
Oh, I was on the dating scene there for a period of time after separating and getting divorced from my ex-wife now.
Yeah.
And there was this lovely, she was a nurse, and she actually introduced me to that song. So she introduced that. And I thought it was really cute. It was a nice, cute song. It's nice.
Is your actual wife listening into this today?
I'm not sure, but as if she is. Hello, Kelly. Hope you're well.
Hi, Kelly.
She's as I said, and it's good. It's good to know. I mean, there is ways there, and sometimes I think when we're sort of fighting with our spouse and so forth, does it really matter? There's so much going on in the world that, just let it go. Just let it go.
Yep, or learn.
Correct.
And learn. Let it go. Let it go and learn.
And let it go and learn, exactly.
All right, well, let's go to Honeybee by the Head and the Heart. And when we come back, we're going to wrap the show because we've only got 30 minutes left.
No worries.
Can you believe it?
That's how I went quick.
Yeah, it did. Anyway, you're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC. There you are. Welcome back. The time is 32 minutes past 11 and you're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC with Rae Bonney, and sitting opposite me is Ben Moore of bees. Let's not call it Ben's Bees anymore. Of something bees. How would you describe yourself if you were introducing yourself on air? Like, who are you?
Oh, who am I? Someone was fortunate enough and lucky enough to do something that I absolutely love and adore. Someone who's made many mistakes. Someone who's learnt from those mistakes. Someone who's making plenty more mistakes in the future, but I'm learning from them. So that was sort of in a nutshell. It's Geez, you've got some good questions there. These psychology questions. I love it. It's, this.
I like to reframe mistakes as opportunities for learning.
Yes.
I think the mistake in a mistake is if you don't recognise that it's an opportunity for learning.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah.
You know, because we just need to run into things that don't resonate, or they connect with your conscience.
Yes.
And go, oh, that doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. It's probably not.
Yeah, exactly. Got an interesting story. When I was young, I sort of about that 13. I'm an only child. I'm a bit of a test tube baby. Apparently, it took me mum 11 years to have me. Something about gonotropin or something that I should ask her again. But
she should have used some royal jelly.
Yeah, I should have. Yeah, no, exactly. That's right. Exactly. So only child. So I grew up sort of quite lonely in a way, or in a lonely as far as I was very much in an adult's world, quite young, quite quick. So, but I remember being sort of 13, 12 going 13. There was this behind the properties out in Seville. There was this big, hundreds of acres, and there was this hive and this beehive in a tree, and you'd walk up to it. And I remember I used to create my own entertainment. This is going to sound terrible, but I used to actually get sticks, because there's no real stones there, sticks, and throw it at the hive and see how far I could run without getting stung. So I'd wind them up. So I'd try and you'd sort of bang the entrance of their hive, and it'd stir them up, and then I'd run and see how far, and then I'd get them in my hair and I'd get stung. And I remember, but one thing, so I was a bit cheeky. I was cheeky like that, sort of creating my own entertainment. But I didn't know back then that's what I was going to eventually become, and do something I will do until, my time is up. And even retirement. A lot of beekeepers, as I said, are sort of older sort of men, a lot of them, and they get into bees when they've retired. And I had this conversation with a guy just yesterday. He works in avionics. Ironically, his name is Peter, and he's 67 going to 68 years of age. And he was saying he doesn't want to retire, and I've really resonated with that, because it's not something I want to retire from work. A lot of people they'll retire, and it's kind of in that last sort of part of time that we're around. But I'll be passing away when I'm an old man with bees all climbing all over me. That's it's exactly. Yeah.
I think retirement's an interesting thing, and my work in men's health, we focus a lot on transition into retirement. But I think I love how diversity, inclusion, and equity is becoming. Our younger generations are really bringing this to life in its truest sense. That our purpose is now becoming just quite. It's very fluid. Like there doesn't, whereas we segregate, primary school, secondary school, university, parenting, old age, dead. Yes. Now it's just so fluid that you can be anything at any time on that. And I love that continuum where retirement now is just like, it's a choice. It's kind of there if you want it. Yes. But I think when we're so less ageist than we used to, that we're recognising that, say, people like you, when you get into your 60s, 70s, 80s, you hold this enormous body of knowledge. Exactly. Why would you just retire it?
Exactly, retire it and put it, exactly.
It's stupid.
And it's, I totally agree. And it's interesting, a lot of beekeepers as an industry, they just keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, another interesting fact, beekeepers are the longest lived of any profession. It's the second oldest profession in the world.
Is it?
It's the second oldest profession. I'll let everyone Google what the oldest profession is. And it's not architecture.
Isn't it prostitution?
Yes, that's right. Yes. It wasn't architecture. But so there's some interesting statistics out there that, beekeepers are the longest lived, and there's sort of maybe that venom, as I sort of touched base before, bee venom.
Yeah, well, you even mentioning before being bitten so many times in stung. Sorry, there you go. I learned that as well. Being stung so many times, perhaps, that's got into your system, and I don't know.
Exactly. I'm almost addicted to the peptides and apitoxin. So
is there a benefit to being stung?
There is, yeah. So arthritis, it helps with arthritis. It lowers blood pressures. Yeah. So there's some incredible, amazing research.
So next time you get stung by a bee and you go, ouch, instead just go, thank you.
Thank you, bee. And then remember the poor bee, she dies when that process happens. Yeah, so we've got to pay our respects.
Yeah. It's funny, Rose, my daughter, who's the mother of my grandchild, Evelyn. Oh, God, she's beautiful. She walked in the other day and she goes, She said the F word.
Yes.
And she'd had a sting. She'd been stung by a bee just walking into that house. And she still had the stinger in her foot.
Oh, wow.
So we pulled it out. We're just marvelling at it.
Yes.
Going, oh, wow, look at that. And we did say, oh, so sorry to the bee.
Yeah, it says, But it's amazing. Something so small, isn't it? It's not microscopic, but it almost is.
Yeah.
That it can hurt so much.
It does. It does. But I actually just want to mention if any of our discussions today have brought up uncomfortable feelings for listeners, probably not our discussion about bees, but, we love to, merge into the mental health space and men's health in particular. Please remember health is there, and also help is there. Here's a few options for further support. Lifeline, the number there is 131114. Suicide callback service is 1300 659 467, and emergency services 000. Call for any emergency. They're there for a reason and they're for a purpose, and they love taking your calls. And don't be afraid. There's a triage. The triage service is well trained. It's well supported. They'll know how to sort you out. You might even be stung by a bee and have an anaphylactic reaction. You could phone
exactly
000 for that too. Now, I'm going to be back on the 31st of December. My next show was going to be January, but the divine Gabby Beams, who is our program director here at 3WBC, has invited me back on the 31st of December for a very special New Year's Eve show. I just think nobody actually wanted to work on New Year's Eve, and so I don't drink alcohol, so what's the point, really? No, anyway. But I'm going to be doing a show in gratitude of 2023, because there is so much to be thankful for the example, the existence of Ben's bees. But, so many people get to the end of the year. Do you find this, Ben? Oh, I'm so glad to see the end of that year. It was just, this happened and that happened. We forget to be grateful for so much, and, I'm not saying that we all have to run around endlessly being optimistic. We can feel sad, we can feel upset, angry, whatever the emotion is. But, gratitude is something that really has a big impact on our well-being, to reflect on all the things that did happen for you this year.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And just looking forward to the new year. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
2025.
Time is
24. Sorry, 24.
But time is also a continuum. Nothing is going to change on the 31st.
Exactly.
It's not going to miraculously become good, bad, or indifferent. It's going to be the day after that day.
Exactly.
Where anything is possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, quiz time. I've got a question for you.
I love questions.
Okay. You mentioned before about, obviously, with wine, but what is the oldest beverage known to humans?
I just think of medieval times.
Yes.
And I think of
Celtic monks.
Mead or something like that.
Yes, mead. Well done. Exactly.
Is it? Oh.
Yes, yeah. It actually, mead predates wine.
I'm really surprised at I was expelled from school when I was 15.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yes, I did not continue education. I did go to university much later in life. However, I pride myself. I left home and school at 15 and didn't have much of a vocabulary. So I had to rely on the dictionary to learn a word every day. And I love nothing more than European history. Yes. So I read a lot about the War of the Roses. That's where that piece of knowledge comes from.
Okay, there we go. Yes, yeah. There we go.
There you go. There's a bit about me, people. You thought I was really smart. Well, I am actually. I am really smart. Just took me a lot of collecting of information.
Yes.
Which is another, we were talking before about education and how you get it. And, the world's a miraculous place for that. Just open your eyes and open your mouth and ask questions and be curious, and you will learn a lot.
Oh, you never stop learning.
No.
That's why I still think myself as an apprentice beekeeper, because the more I think I know, the more I realise I don't know.
Yes.
And there's always something to learn.
Always. Well, speaking of gratitude, Paula Hogg, she's coming up next. I believe she's coming up next on the show. She delivers 3 hours of what she calls a lazy Sunday afternoon. And so a whole range of music, which is really cool. And she carries it all in on public transport, bag of CDs, like very old school. But a fun fact about Paula and I, we also on the sidelines dabble in a bit of entertainment. So we do extra work a lot on television shows, movies, things like
awesome.
that. Yeah. Sometimes I get speaking lines. Sometimes she gets parts.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Anyway, while I was away in Borneo, I got an email from my agent, Epic Talent Management. They are amazing. They're such a caring agency, a talent agency. And they have me a part in a series, which I can't tell you what it is. But I'm playing the role of I think a mental patient, a patient in a mental institution. Anyway, I look at the other actors on the list, and the psychiatrist who's taking care of me is actually Paula Hogg.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so Paula, who's coming on next week, actually going to take part in a series.
That's cool.
Yes, in January.
Yes, yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So,
looking forward to that.
Yeah, but I think, that there are so many things in the world that we can do. And, I love the stage. I never thought I'd be taking the stage talking about men's issues and mental health and suicide. And I love that. But performing is, radio, it's entertainment.
Yes.
Acting is entertainment.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
So don't be limited, people, by your beliefs. So tell me, what's next for Ben's Bees? Is there something, apart from moving your premises, your home?
Yes, yeah. What's next on the horizon? I think I've done a lot of. You just mentioned about media. I've actually been fortunate enough to do a lot of media sort of work on 7, 9, and 10.
Nothing like this though.
Nothing just yet. So it's I'm this for 2024. I want to spend some more time in the country with my bees, and be a little bit sort of more, I suppose, in a bit of solitude in my environment. It's because I've spent a lot of time with people, and so for 2024, I just want to not kick back a year, because it's sometimes I think it's brutal work. Like imagine 34-degree day wearing a suit in the sun. No matter how many litres of water you drink, you're still, you're still not going to the toilet.
So they haven't improved suits, that they have some...
there's a mesh one, but I'm not convinced it's any cooler. It's, it's sort of brutal in that aspect, but so beautiful in the same token. So I actually want to spend some more time in country, and I'm exploring... I'm going further and more beyond within Victoria. I keep it all within Victoria, because it's a bit, you've got to get permits and so forth to go into South Australia and New South Wales. But
how do you go with the respecting of the traditional owners of our land? Does that impact your work at all?
Oh, it hasn't, because that's a fantastic question. No, it hasn't impacted at all. So it's there is certain areas there's designated apiary sites, and that's through the state government. So I know they take care of those sorts of different areas and lands and things. So that's a really good question.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah. I've never. I get asked a lot of questions about bees and but I'm not. That's not what I've been asked.
Well, it's becoming such an important part of our conversation. My acknowledgement of country. Whenever I'm speaking or presenting here, I'm always very thoughtful about what that I'm delivering that from my experience, and I find, as I said in my delivery, I just find it really, really upsetting that. I was born in the late 60s, and growing up, in primary school and high school, we had no education on our Indigenous people, apart from all the terrible, obvious things.
Yes.
And then growing up, around social stuff, around how the impact of behaviours have had on our Indigenous people, but never about their feeling about it. And I was watching a show, it's called The Newsreader. It's an Australian production. It's on, I think it's on the ABC. Could even be on SBS. Can't remember which one. Sorry, SBS and ABC. But anyway, it's a great Australian drama, but it depicts a lot about media in the 1980s. And I remember when the tall ships came to Australia, the reenactment of the first fleet.
Yes.
And I was working on the 42nd floor of the ANZ Tower at the time, and I'm watching these, these tall ships come and go, oh my God, this is just so amazing. Didn't think of anything else apart from, my own enjoyment of that. And when I was watching this newsreader program the other day, they captured that moment in the media, but gave the other side of it and how our Indigenous people interpreted that and how traumatizing that was for them, and how our media and how our governments just shut their voices down. We didn't want to hear that.
Didn't want to hear, okay.
And they were silenced, and I just felt really upset and angry that, you know, that information is being kept from us. We don't have a choice on how we consume or what we do about that. Yeah.
That was 1988.
Something like that,
I think 1988, because I think every school got a coin.
Oh, really?
I was, yeah. I think it was a $2 no, it wasn't a $2 coin. It was a $1 coin,
I think they had $2 coins.
No, they didn't. No, that's right. I think that was sort of more in the late 90s, I think. Yeah, so I remember. Yeah, interesting.
But it's a really good show. You should watch it because it just, you know, it really just highlights those key moments in Australian history through a media lens. And, you know, back to our point before about how we consume media, whether it's social media or, you know, traditional media methods, it is our responsibility to find out what we need. We just can't believe face value on whatever is you know, I mean, you look at the media, the state of the media, and how, you know, consumers now can just, you know, do anything on your iPhone. So that, as an occupation, those poor people are now out of a job. So anything they create is probably got some kind of spin on it that is for a sale.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to sell this story, so therefore need to probably sensationalize it or prepare that for consumer benefit.
Yeah, very interesting points.
Oh, look, you know, we could just go on forever about the ethics of Australian or global media. But, So, what about for today, Ben?
Today,
get the day off?
No. It's 7 days a week, but I have Christmas Day off, and then Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and then the day after is and it's with all the troops, all my children.
What happens if you do have the day off? Like, why is it that you have to be occupied every day?
Oh, geez, I think I've got non-diagnosed ADHD.
Oh, okay. So it's not like the bees are going to die if you don't attend to them.
No, it's not. No, it's not that. But I can always do more, always do better, always do more with what I need to do. It could be cleaning boxes, making boxes, doing that type of thing. So I just can't stop. Like it's actually, I think it's a bit of a problem in a positive way, because I've actually learned to any of that sort of behaviour. Like I can't even watch a movie like from start to finish. Like I just I gotta do something. But it's but I've harnessed that into my work with bees.
Yes.
So if I can do something now, that could be, you know, it could be creating a new product. You know what I mean? It could be how can I do something better? But Rae, to answer that question today, I'm helping another beekeeper just down the road in Burwood. We are going to both got this. It's a beehive that's been well established in a compost bin.
Yeah.
It is monstrous, and these bees are pretty feisty. So both of us, this other beekeeper, he lives in Ringwood. We're both going to safely remove those bees. We're going to do that at 1:30 today in Burwood.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yes.
It's just amazing that the occupations people have never fails to astound me, where you go, shit, people actually do that for a living.
Yes,
you know? It's really exciting. But I guess, you know, I don't want to be a counsellor here at all. But I harken back again to that conversation about, you know, not spending enough time for you and your family.
Yes.
You know, how does your family go with, you know, perhaps self-diagnosis of ADHD needing to be engaged?
Exactly. I know. It's a very interesting one. So I think that maybe comes back to that masculinity of I need to support my family.
Yeah.
And so I've got to work harder, you know what I mean, do more things. So I think that sort of comes back to it. So, but I've known the mistake I made with round one, I'm not making with round two, is with the with being young children, you know, Milan's 3, is if I do something, I'm being present.
Right.
And I put the phone away and go, you know what, even if it's only 20 minutes, you know what I mean, he wants to use the play with cars, trucks, helicopters, these little toys, is to actually go, you know what, be present. Where previously, rewind the clock back sort of, you know, 10, 14 years ago, I wasn't present. So now I'm sort of going, okay, you know what, I'll just stop and just be present with him. So even if it's only a small sort of micro bursts of doing that throughout the day, because I work obscure hours too sometimes. Leaving at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah, so obscure. So depending on what I'm doing for that day. But yeah, that's why I try and do that.
Yeah.
Be present.
Yeah.
Be present. I've learnt that.
And I think you're right in that. Is that if people feel cared for, there's a difference between feeling cared for and being told you're cared for.
Yes. Yes.
So being told you care. Oh, we really care. Here's $10. I really
Yes.
care. You've got new shoes, or
Yes.
just that moment of actually feeling connected and knowing that you're safe. That's, I think, a really, really good focus
Yeah,
to
exactly.
have. And in fact, there was something that I did pull off your website, and I loved it. It actually brought tears to my eyes, and I want to read it out. You might know it off by heart, but I'm going to read it anyway. And it's a love letter that you wrote.
Who is it? I've written many love letters.
Yeah. And it goes like this. Dear bee lover, I'm writing you this love letter to thank you for visiting and supporting Ben's Bees. For over a decade, I've been building and growing the Ben's Bees company based on a deep love and respect for apiculture and the environment and the Australian community. As I'm sure you're aware, running a small business can be a risky enterprise. Not many business owners make it past that all-important first year, but I'm always amazed and humbled by the support that people like yourself show up with. With every jar of honey, every block of wax, beehive tool or service purchased from Ben's Bees, I'm able to support my young family, maintain my passion, help preserve the bee population, and educate my local community. This brings a profound sense of worth to my job and my life and encourages me to keep making the world a better place. It's a simple decision, a choice for individuals to make to support local enterprises, but for business owners like myself, it means the absolute world. Thank you for continuing to help bees, the environment, and my family through your ethical and heartfelt choices. The more hectic our lives become, the more important it is to make those humble decisions, such as where you shop, who to listen to, and what to eat. It seems to me that such choices are an active way of expressing gratitude and committing to good living. I see how my connection to my clients and community is a two-way street where we appreciate and support one another. This isn't an airy-fairy idea, it's very real. In fact, feeling emotions such as gratitude, love and caring generates waves that radiate to every cell in our body, whereas depleting emotions like frustration, anger and anxiety increase blood pressure, weaken the immune system and impair cognitive function. Crazy. It's an aside perhaps, but it seems to explain why the positive feelings I get from the bee community make me feel so damn good. Let's keep helping each other do good work in the world, be that for bees, our families and friends, the environment or the local community. If you would like to encourage more people to follow my work with Ben's Bees, please leave a review on Google. Anyway, there's that. Your kind words help connect others to my services so I can continue to spread my love of local produce, healthy living, ethical thinking, and of course bees. Enjoy some of my bees. Much love, Ben.
Beautiful. I think for many people, they will do a career that they truly don't want to do. And I think sort of encompassing all those words is I'm so fortunate and lucky enough to have done something that I absolutely, truly, truly love in every moment of the day. So I think, for the listeners out there, if you've got, children, grandchildren, nephews, nieces, I think encourage them. And it may be obscure, to someone that their child wants to, play Fortnite, as a YouTuber. Mm. But that one specific, person who plays Fortnite on YouTube, he takes home, I think it's somewhere between 1.2, 1.8 million per month. Mm. So that's what they love doing. So yes. Now money is not necessarily the end goal, but if you do something you love and you know what, you can have food on the table and a roof over your head, that's what matters, and you enjoy it. And
it's all about sustainability.
Correct.
And we think sustainability is just environment, but your environment is your environment.
Exactly.
But thank you, Ben, for coming on today and sharing so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you, Rae. Thank you so much for everyone. And thank you, everyone, for listening too. Really, and hope everyone takes care of each other and, take care of those bees especially.
We will. So final special guest song request. There was the one more that I've chosen. So it's an anagram of Baba, which is the group name, and also something to do with bees as well. I can tell you what it is.
Yeah, tell me what it is.
It is ABBA, and the song is Honey Honey.
Honey Honey, of course.
All right, thanks again, guys. Be safe, and I'll see you or hear from you on the 31st of December.
Thanks, everyone.